Part 7. All Heaven's Unlimited Base. Author, Jingde Ren. Chapter 61. 61 Tracker. Boom. Boom boom. The rolling shutter door of the convenience store was constantly deformed under the pressure, and was then violently pushed down by countless zombies. The zombies immediately poured into it, filling the entire convenience store to the brim in just over 10 seconds. The shelves were knocked down by zombies and made a burst of clattering noises, attracting more zombies to rush over. However, there was no one in the convenience store. Under the overturned shelves, an electronic secret door was shining with red light. Of course, these zombies would not pay attention to this. I'm fed up with this place. In the secret warehouse underground of the convenience store, Beltway tore off his gas mask and got used to the ground, angrily yelling, "Zombies, zombies, zombies! Zombies everywhere! Even wearing a gas mask can smell a corpse smell. What the hell is that smell? What a smell! What a smell!" He was so angry that he took 2 steps forward and kicked a corpse in a white coat that fell on the ground. "Okay, calm down. If you want to make money for the company, you can only go this way. Fortunately, we are still a complete team. As long as we are together, we will be able to do anything." Chun Yuyan walked over and took a picture, pat him on the shoulder, and then threw a handheld game console to him. "Let's play, I picked it up in a store just now." At this time, the rest of the Delta team were also doing their own things around, but everyone's face was not very good looking. This warehouse is very large, and they also found a lot of 9mm pistol bullets in the warehouse, which happened to be used for their MP-5 submachine guns. Ghost and Victor were pressing the bullets into the magazine one by one, and Lei Chen was also helping. On the other side, Bertha was checking some food and water found in the warehouse to see if they were infected with the virus. Looper checked the inventory in the warehouse and the surrounding entrances and exits on the console host of the warehouse. Four Eyes was busy on the console in front of the culture tank, and after Chun Yuyan handed over the game console to Beltway, he helped Four Eyes. He said it was to help, but in fact he just saw that he had nothing to do, so he had no choice but to flirt with his sister. A disgusting creature that looked like a piece of intestine or an octopus torn apart by a shark was soaked in the culture tank, and it moved from time to time. This is NE-alpha, a new type of parasite developed by the European branch of Umbrella Corporation to control biological and chemical weapons and improve their IQ. In fact, Umbrella's development of the T-virus started with the progenitor virus, which is a virus that can strengthen the recipient's physical abilities in all aspects, but it is not stable. Later, James Marcus developed the T-virus after the combination of the ancestor virus and the leech gene. But the B.O.W produced by the T-virus is also very unsatisfactory, because ordinary organisms simply cannot withstand the genetic damage caused by the mutation of the T-virus, and the probability of finding a suitable receptor is only 1 in 10 million, and mass production is impossible. As a result, Umbrella's North American and European divisions have moved in 2 directions. The North American division is committed to further improving the gene damage of the T-virus to the receptor, so that the B.O.W produced can be more stable. The Tyrant series, T-101, T-102, and T-103 are the most proud products of the North American division. The project proposed by the French Institute is the Nemesis project, commonly known as the Nemesis. Nemesis is a parasitic organism produced by artificially adjusting genes. After being implanted into the T-virus B.O.W, it will strengthen B.O.W's self-healing ability and improve its intelligence level. This also solves the shortcomings of the T-virus B.O.W from another direction, allowing the receptors to survive the mutation of the virus and better execute combat instructions. So, the stalker is not the nemesis, it is the parasite in its brain, and the movie is pure nonsense. Of course, this is off topic. The Delta Squad in the USS is actually affiliated with Umbrella's European division, which is why it has been the director of the French Institute, Christine Henry, who has been calling the shots on them. It is also for this reason that Four Eyes, the virus expert of the Delta team, is also focusing on Nemesis, and its current mature product is the Ne-alpha parasite. This Ne-alpha parasite is a model specially developed for trackers, and it is not the same as the small parasite I carry. And this parasite has been implanted with instructions, which contains all of the S.T.A.R.S of the Raccoon City Police Department Special Operations Team information, and an instruction to kill them. I can make some adjustments, but there are not many instructions that can be entered. Four Eyes said while busy on the console. Chen Yuyan thought for a while and said, "Can we let it protect us?" He rolled his eyes and said, "Are you dreaming? Let AB.O.W, who knows nothing but killing and whose IQ may not be as good as a dog, protect you. That's it, enter the data of the 8 of us so that it will not attack us. Then set its program to follow us first. If we lose our track, then follow the power station police station Raccoon City." The order of the Underground Research Institute, Chen Yuyan said, his eyes became serious. "What are you going to do? Kill everyone?" Four Eyes looked up and asked. Chen Yuyan closed his eyes and sighed softly, "Erase the target's data, let it hang around with us in those places, and then turn on the passive defense mode. In this way, it should be attacked before it counterattacks and kills the attacker, let him be our meat shield." "What do you use the B.O.W who can't kill?" Four Eyes asked a little strangely. "Our goal is to complete the mission and survive." Chen Yuyan said pointedly, not sure whether he meant the mission of the system or the mission of Umbrella Company. "After the Raccoon City incident, the company will not you are worthy of our trust again. We have to find another way out, so don't go too far. In addition, you should also have modified pheromones for inducing, so we can use this to guide the trackers to the target." Four Eyes nodded silently, and began to quickly operate on the keyboard. After a while, she raised her head and said, "It's done." "Inject it?" Chen Yuyan said. Four Eyes pressed a red button, and an opening was immediately opened under the cultivation tank in front of him, and the nutrient solution was injected through the opening along with the Ne-alpha parasite. Then, there was only a soft bang, and a hatch of a huge iron tank sprayed with the T02 mark soundlessly opened next to it, and an extremely burly figure came out. This is a giant man wearing a military overcoat, 2 meters tall, with muscles so strong that he is completely abnormal. Its face still has stitched and artificial marks, no mouth skin, sharp teeth, and bright red gums are just exposed. This face alone is enough to make people have nightmares. On his shoulders, 2 tubes implanted in the spine can still be seen, and the tubes are still wriggling. In the place not covered by the military coat, one can see the body made of mutated tissues, like a pile of rotten meat, but it is as hard as a stone. Tracker. The crowning masterpiece of Umbrella's European Division Nemesis project. Boom. 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 The tracker came out step by step, came to a weapon box next to him, opened the box, and inside was a rocket launcher that had been modified to fit the tracker's size. After picking up the bazooka, it turned around and walked toward Xian and Chen Yuyan, with heavy steps, and finally stood motionless in front of them. "Delta Squad." From the stalker's lipless mouth came a low, hoarse voice, like the roar of a beast. All Heavens Unlimited Base. Author, Jingde Ren. Chapter 62. 62 Commander Huang. September 27, 11:10 a.m., Raccoon City Power Station. Huang Xian straightened up, and he was still holding a person in his hand, as if he was carrying a rag. And this person had been beaten to the point that his whole body was broken. Even if he was being carried by Huang Xian, his whole body was drooping, without any strength, and countless blood seeped out from his body everywhere. It was extremely miserable. There was even blood splashed onto Huang Xian's slim shirt, making the white shirt even more terrifying amidst the blood. But even if he was beaten like this person still had his breath left. Huang Xian's attack was just right, not only beating him into a useless person, but also hanging him for a breath so that he could live in extreme pain. Plop! Huang Xian threw the man aside with his backhand, his cold gaze swept around. Surrounding him, hundreds of people stood in a circle, including experimenters and survivors of Raccoon City. These people all looked at him with horrified eyes. Just now, Huang Xian beat this person who dared to challenge his authority into such a pile of rotten flesh with extremely terrifying strength. The method was extremely cruel, and the high-ranking experimenter in the bronze group had no strength to resist at all. What I want is unity, not someone who wants to come out and tell me what to do just because he has a little strength. Huang Xian looked around expressionlessly. He was over 1.9 meters tall, well-proportioned, and handsome, but there was a hint of viciousness between his brows, and his eagle-like eyes made everyone around him lower their heads involuntarily. Huang Xian's strength is very simple, Muay Thai, extremely powerful Muay Thai. He learned Kung Fu from the prison warden in slaying the wolf too, and then he did not know where to practice internal strength, forcibly tempering himself into a human weapon. The battle between him and the high-level experimenter in the bronze group just now is still vivid in his mind. The two of them met each other, their feet were broken, their fists were broken, and their fists broke. Almost every punch, every kick, can hear the crisp sound of fracture. Everyone just watched helplessly as Huang Xian broke the man's bones one by one, screaming endlessly, until finally, he didn't even have the strength to scream, and just lay on the ground like a lump of rotten meat. Seeing the reactions of these people, Huang Xian was very satisfied, while his three capable men, the young man with the chicken coop head, the middle-aged man with the bald head, and the short and fat man stood behind him, showing his majesty. Rebecca Shamborth, the heroine of Resident Evil 0, and Jill Valentine, the heroine of Resident Evil 3, also stood on the other side, which made those experimenters who knew the plot dare not have the slightest suspicion. Rebellious. Our enemy should be the Umbrella Corporation. It should be their lackeys, the U.B.C.S, and the U.S.S. We should unite and twist our strength into one rope. What should we do if we want to survive here? Instead of hiding in the corner like a dog, waiting for the nuclear bomb to come in 3 days. Instead, we must unite and find a way out. And most importantly, we must destroy Umbrella Corporation. Huang Xian said loudly. You may want to ask, how did Umbrella, a behemoth with hundreds of billions of dollars in assets, be destroyed? Or, how could it be destroyed within a few months? The expression on Huang Xian's face became more and more frenzied. We know, the Umbrella Company has a research institute underground in Raccoon City. As long as we get the contents of the research institute, we can destroy Umbrella. All bury their heads deeper, especially the experimenters. They knew very well that no matter what was in the research institute, it must belong to Huang Xian and had nothing to do with them. But now, in order to survive, it can only be like this. You all want to ask, why did I bring you to the power station? Because of the U.S.S. Because we got information, the U.S.S. will come to destroy this power station. Plunge the whole city into darkness. Huang Xian's voice became more and more gao. Think about it, we can't guarantee that we can escape within these 2 days, but when night falls, there are no street lights around, and it is dark everywhere. How can we resist those zombies? U.S.S. and Umbrella Corporation, this is cutting off our last way of life. We must not let them succeed. Then he opened his hands and shouted loudly, have you all forgotten the tragedy that happened in the institute a week ago? More than 30 people all died there. Who did it? It's the U.S.S. They are unique and powerful enemies, they are all cold-blooded and ruthless killing machines. We must unite to defeat them. To destroy Umbrella. Yes. Kill the U.S.S. Destroy Umbrella. Some people in the crowd who had been arranged in advance began to boo. Kill the U.S.S. Destroy Umbrella. Survivors who didn't know what happened were also instigated. Now the city is like a hell on earth. If the power is cut off again, they will die. Kill the U.S.S. Destroy Umbrella. The experimenters had no choice but to echo, as Dahlia was like this, they were helpless. With a ferocious smile on Huang Xian's face, he waved his big hand and shouted, "Take those lackeys from Umbrella Company out to sacrifice the flag first." Several round-shouldered experimenters pushed out 6 people wearing green military uniforms and gray belts, with the logo of Umbrella Company on their clothes. They were all from U.B.C.S. The experimenter escorted them to the bottom of a utility pole, where a platform and 6 rope loops had been pre-built. "We are here to rescue civilians. You can't do this to us." A U.B.C.S soldier struggled and shouted. "Bah!" A survivor next to him spit thick phlegm on his face and roared angrily, "Everyone from the Umbrella Company should be damned. Raccoon City became like this, it's all because of them. Hang them! Hang them!" The emotions suppressed by Huang Xian's fear broke out completely at this moment, and some people even picked up stones and threw them on the soldiers' heads. One of the brown-haired, young, and handsome U.B.C.S soldiers stared at Huang Xian. He should have been beaten badly before, and now he is covered in bruises. He looked at Huang Xian's eyes almost bursting into flames, and squeezed out a sentence from between his teeth, "You will die a terrible death." At this time, some experimenters had already recognized the soldier. He is the hero of Resident Evil 3, a U.B.C.S soldier, and Carlos Oliveira, who survived life and death with Jill and finally escaped in the plot. But now obviously he won't have the chance to get to know Jill Valentine again. The latter is standing next to Huang Xian, looking at them, the people sent by Umbrella Company, with the same anger and hatred. Huang Xian walked over, patted Carlos' face lightly, and said with a smirk, "With me here, you will always be just a small character who can't get ahead. Just like Billy Cohen, he. After speaking, without waiting to show doubts on his face, Carlos Oliveira, who didn't know what Billy Cohen had to do with him, waved his hand violently and shouted loudly, "Hang them!" Click! Click! The temporary platform was kicked away, and 6 U.B.C.S soldiers, including Carlos Oliveira, hung in the air and were strangled by ropes. They waved their arms in despair, but soon the lack of oxygen and suffocation made them lose all their strength, and they were hung there like this, with the weight of their whole bodies on their necks, motionless. The short and fat man walked up, put the Mao leader's coat on Huang Xian, and said flatteringly, "We are getting closer and closer to the goal." "Boss, no. Commander Huang. Thanks to Wang Chuan Matinal for the reward of 3,000 starting coins. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. All Heavens Unlimited Base. Author, Jingde Ren. Chapter 63. 63, I am coming, die. Don't be blindly optimistic, the variable has already arrived. The young man in Jiwatu said lazily. He, variable. The commander has grasped the general situation. What other variable can stop us? The chunky man sneered. U.S.S, I didn't come here last night. Jiwatu was still tinkering with a drone, and said flatly. Huang Xian, who was full of ambition before, suddenly turned his head and asked in a deep voice, "What does this mean?" "It means variable." Jiwatu said, "According to the intelligence, the U.S.S should have come to destroy the power station last night. But they didn't come. Humph. Now in this Raccoon City, there are zombies everywhere. Are they delayed or even eaten by zombies?" The short and fat man said coldly. "If the U.S.S will be blocked by zombies, then they don't deserve to be called U.S.S. They always represent the strongest armed force in Raccoon City. Zombies may delay them for nearly half a day? Jiwatu asked rhetorically. Ha 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 ha. Right now, we are the strongest armed force in Raccoon City. Ha 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 ha. The short, fat man laughed wildly. After a battle with the U.S.S, we will transform into a real force. They just grind, it's just a knife and a stone. I hope so. Jiwatu replied and stopped talking. Huang Xian walked over and grabbed Jiwatu's shoulders, shook his head severely and said, "Don't worry, go away. I'm here. Regardless of U.S.S, no matter what conspiracy Umbrella has, I will definitely kill them and return with a rewarding reward. In the previous world slaying the wolf too, you were my savior, and since then, you have been my brother for the rest of my life. I, Huang Xian, have clear grievances." Jiwatu nodded, but the worry on his face could not be resolved. On the 27th, at 1400 hours, Raccoon City Power Station. A patrol team composed of several experimenters shot down the approaching zombies one by one through the barbed wire fence of the power station. One of the experimenters sighed and said, "Oh, there are more and more zombies around. It's not an option to continue like this. Whether it's going to the research institute or the police station, we have to move. What can I do? Do you dare to confront Commander Huang Xian?" Another person said. "He seems to want to wait until after the showdown with the U.S.S here before leaving for the police station. But the U.S.S didn't come, and there are more and more zombies. This is the human heart, you don't understand," an experimenter said old-fashionedly. "Before, no matter how intimidating and tempting Commander Huang was, we were always a bunch of mobs. But if we have experienced a war with the USS, I'm definitely on his side." The experimenter showed displeasure. "Then there are not so many miscellaneous things. Now hanging around with Commander Huang is the only way for us to survive. Don't talk about it. Try to show our value." Belch. "What are you doing? There are still a few zombies coming over here." Belch. "What the hell are you doing?" The experimenter finally realized something was wrong, turned around and said sharply. "Heek, chasing, tracker. What are you talking about chasing?" The man finally followed his line of sight, and suddenly saw a huge figure wearing a military coat with an unusually burly figure. He was also stunned. "Chasing, chasing. The stalker. The stalker is here." The experimenter who reacted finally found that behind the group of zombies in front of him, there was this terrifying figure standing impressively. The scariest enemy in Resident Evil 3. Super B.O.W, tracker. Notify others. Stalker. Stalker is coming. What responded to them was a bright flame and a long tail of smoke. Phew, boom. The rocket exploded on the barbed wire fence of the power station. Huge flames rose up, and the barbed wire was instantly blown away. The surrounding zombies were blown away by the shockwave of the explosion, but then more zombies rushed in. Hundreds of meters away from here, a man wearing a tight black combat uniform and a gas mask with eyepieces sticking out like tentacles is lying on the ground, setting up an SV-98 sniper rifle, aiming at the over there at the power station. Impressively a member of the U.S.S Delta team, Ghost. The tracker has broken through the barbed wire and entered. Ghost said lightly in the communication. "Okay, use the inducing pheromone to guide it to the main building of the power station, and someone will attack it on its own initiative." Looper's voice came. "The Ghost understands." The Ghost replied, and pulled the trigger after a short aim. Puff. With a soft sound, the specially made sniper bullet filled with induction pheromone was fired silently, and exploded in the direction of the main building of the power station. The pheromone potion with a faint fishy smell exploded, and almost at the same time, the rotten eyes of the tracker suddenly looked in that direction. Four Eyes, Beltway. How's your B.O.W? Looper continued. In the other direction, the Four Eyes are holding a telescope, and at the same time, they are checking the position with an instrument in their hands. Beside her, Beltway smiled lowly and said, I have prepared a surprise for them. Ha 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 ha. Only 4 lickers were seen quietly climbing up an office building of the power station. If you look carefully, you can find that these lickers have a few bags hanging on their bodies. Victor, what about you? In the shadows, Victor was walking quietly. When he received the communication, he stopped and replied with his voice, the location of the supply box has been confirmed. There are 4 sniper positions around. Give me 3 minutes. Bertha, 0. Bertha took out a potion, injected it into Chen Yuyan's arm, and said lightly, ready. Chen Yuyan looked at the power station in front of him. Under the noon sun, the high-voltage utility poles in the power station shone with light from time to time. In this power station, about 300 people gathered, including experimenters and civilians. They have different backgrounds and different abilities, but the same thing is that they all want to live. But now, what I have to do is to extinguish their hope of surviving. Chen Yuyan feels a little heavy in his heart. But, I also want to live. Umbrella's chain around the neck of the U.S.S is still in place, and most of the team is still loyal to the company. It is the only way to follow the company's instructions now. Even if it was mentioned in Mocha's notes that the U.S.S will eventually break with the company, but that is not now. Waiting for the opportunity is his only choice. Destroy the power station and plunge the survivors of the city into deeper despair. What else can I say? This is a sin, it is my indelible sin, a sin that cannot be saved even if the Buddha himself is there. What else can I say? What we have to do now is not to feel sorry for ourselves, nor to look at ourselves, nor to pretend to be hypocritical to repent. I'm guilty. Never wash off. But I survived. Your wishes, your grievances, and sins are all imposed on me. This is the only thing I can do for you after I kill you. So, go to hell. Experimenters. Survivors. Maybe you are good people, maybe you also want to work hard to turn things around, but here I am, you are dead. Chen Yuyan took off the glove on his right hand, revealing the Yaksha tattoo on his right hand. His eyes became icy cold. 0. Ready. Thank you for the 2000 starting point coins rewarded by the Star Sea Rangers. Thanks to Samwick for the reward of 500 starting coins. Thanks to Time Shuttle 7288 and Xiao AI, who loves to read books, for the reward of 100 starting coins. All Heavens Unlimited Base. Author, Jingde Ren. Chapter 64. 64 Unpredictable. Stalker. It's the stalker. Why did the tracker come here? Wow. Help, help. There were screams and exclamations among the survivors. After discovering the intruder, the temporary army gathered in the power station began to resist and move towards this place. A Super B.O.W rushing over. Da-da-da-da. Da-da-da-da. Countless guns of all kinds, long and short, fired wildly at the pursuers, and countless bullets poured out like raindrops, almost covering a large area in front of them. When the bullets hit the tracker, most of them were like mud bulls entering the sea. They were either blocked by the special bulletproof coat, or blocked by its rock-solid mutated body. But the large number of bullets still beat the pursuer back again and again. Ah! The tracker let out an angry roar, raised the bazooka in his hand and aimed it at the place with the densest firepower. Boom! The high-explosive rocket exploded immediately, and the violent explosion was set off in an instant, and several survivors around were immediately blown out. A gap suddenly appeared in the dense fire net, followed by the tracker shaking his hand suddenly, and a tentacle stretched out instantly, shooting out like a bullet, piercing the head of an unprepared experimenter in an instant. A big hole. Kill. The tracker roared loudly, grabbed the corpse with his tentacles, swung it violently, and threw it towards the crowd on the other side. With a bang, several people were knocked to the ground by the corpses. Boom. A sniper bullet instantly hit the tracker's head, spattering a large cloud of blood, but the tracker remained unmoved, his eyes full of chaos and killing immediately fixed on the direction of the sniper. Raise the rocket launcher. The rocket is launched again with a long tail flame. Boom. The tall chimney hidden by the sniper was immediately hit by a rocket. After a huge explosion, the chimney more than 30 meters high began to tilt a little bit, and then the whole thing collapsed. Get out! Get out! Zombies, it's a group of zombies. There was a loud scream, and I could only see hundreds of zombies howling and swarming in from the gap in the barbed wire fence where the pursuers rushed in. Commander! Tracker! Tracker is here! The panicked experimenter rushed to the main building of the power station to report to Huangxian. Hearing this news, even Huangxian's expression changed. He stood up abruptly and said loudly, "What did you say?" Tracker. Then his gaze involuntarily swept over Jill Valentine next to him, and in the plot of Resident Evil 3, the tracker is always chasing her. Fortunately, Jill is also very skilled, otherwise she would have died in the hands of the Super B.O.W. Is the tracker coming after Jill this time? It's the U.S.S. Jiwataguawei said in a deep voice, they must have controlled the tracker in some way. No, the tracker was originally a product of Umbrella Corporation, and they are basically in the same group as them. I can't let it kill anymore. Jill, Rebecca. You cover me. Guowei, you go and stabilize the others. Huangxian stood up and gave orders decisively. After speaking, he grabbed an M-16 assault rifle on the table, threw the other two to Rebecca and Jill, and quickly ran out the door. Guowei took a deep breath, took out a personal terminal that was much thicker than a normal laptop, and clicked on it a few times, only to see more than a dozen pictures appear on the terminal's screen immediately. At the same time, around the power station, more than a dozen drones flew into the sky, and the cameras on them instantly covered almost all areas around the power station. Through the footage of the drone, it can be seen that a gap has been blown up on the east side of the power station, and countless zombies are pouring in. Moreover, the chimney that was blown down by the tracker also made the scene full of smoke and chaos, and the resistance of the survivors and experimenters over there was close to collapse. It's about to die over there. I'll go there right away. The chunky man also picked up a special assault rifle and said loudly. His assault rifle is a bit different. It looks like a hole, but it is very ergonomic in his hand. It is the M41, a pulse rifle from the world of Alien. Don't go. Guowei suddenly said loudly. Why do you give orders to me? The short and fat man snapped back very unhappily. Huangxian, Rebecca, and Jill are enough in the past. Now our most important question is, when will the U.S.S. act? Guowei said in a deep voice. What we are facing now are stalkers and zombies, not the U.S.S. said the chunky man. Guowei opened one of the screens and clicked a few times. The drone in that direction immediately lowered its height and began to adjust the focus of the lens. The hideous face of the tracker immediately filled the entire screen. I only saw it rushing left and right among the scattered crowd, at an extremely fast speed, even faster than ordinary people running at full speed. Wherever it passed, people caught up by it were killed by it one after another, and there was no room for resistance at all. I only heard it roaring in a low voice while killing, kill. Did you hear it? It said, kill. Remember the plot in Resident Evil 3? There is only one sentence for the tracker in it, and that is S.T.A.R.S, which is its target. But what it said has changed. What does that mean? Guowei asked rhetorically. The bald middle-aged man immediately reacted, its program has been modified. That's right. There are not many people who can modify the tracker's program in Raccoon City, and one of them is the U.S.S. Guo Wei said. Then what should we do? The short and fat man said a little uncomfortably. Wait. Guo Wei said as he searched carefully on the screen, but found nothing unusual. The U.S.S must have found the drone, and they are hiding it. With their skills, it is very difficult to avoid the drone's field of vision. It's simple, but there will always be clues. Ji Peng, do you have any news about the person ambush at the supply box of Umbrella Company? The bald man frowned, and immediately asked in the communication. After a while, his face was livid, and he put down the communication device and said, all the snipers we ambush have lost contact. Guo Wei took another deep breath, and his eyes began to become deeper. No matter how powerful the U.S.S is, their tactics are still those of the special forces of various countries. When they are about to take action, they will almost certainly choose to make more money. Tactics. But the fact that the trackers have caused such a commotion on the east side and they still don't do anything shows that they think we are capable of dealing with the trackers. And the supply box they airdropped has been controlled by us before, and we have set up an ambush around it. The location of the supply box is on the north side of the power station. They clean up the snipers there. Could it be that they want to attack from the north? He said to himself, speaking. Suddenly, the drone screen captured a few shadows in an inconspicuous corner. Guo Wei immediately zoomed in on the screen, and it didn't matter if he saw it, his pupils constricted instantly. Lickers. 4 lickers are on the west side of the power station. And they still have baggage on them. Guo Wei exclaimed, wait a minute. In the plot of Operation Raccoon City, the U.S.S destroyed the power station. The station uses EMP bombs. Because of the large scale of the power station, they simply cannot find so many explosives to destroy the entire power station. Could it be? His face became serious. Could it be, they want to control the lickers to carry EMP bombs to destroy the power station? Yes, it is possible. Four Eyes, a virus expert in the U.S.S, has this skill in the game, which can control mutant creatures of. He stood up abruptly. Their real target is the power station, and the trackers are just bait. Ji Peng, Yao Xiong. Hurry up to the west side of the power station and eliminate those lickers. All Heavens Unlimited Base. Author, Jingde Ren. Chapter 65. 65 Encirclement and Annihilation. Chen Yuyan clenched his fists, feeling the majestic power in his body. What Bertha injected him just now was one of Umbrella's newest products, the Rage Potion. Although usually when everyone hears about Umbrella, the first thing that comes to mind is the T-virus, that is, zombies. But in fact, in the world of Resident Evil, at least before the events of Raccoon City, Umbrella's really well-known side is their existence as a super pharmaceutical company. Umbrella has launched a large number of pharmaceutical products, directly advancing the world's medical water products for decades. And among all kinds of medicines, besides the most noted first aid spray, there are many other products. By the way, this first aid spray, which can heal wounds instantly, is actually one of the products of T-virus. As for the Rage Potion, although its name is very magical, its principle is actually a powerful adrenaline and heart booster. After injection, the heart and blood vessels will be extremely expanded, the heart muscle contraction will be strengthened, the blood circulation will be accelerated, the strength and speed of the person will be extremely enhanced, and it can also reduce pain and improve concentration. With the developed medical technology of Umbrella Company, the effect of the Berserk Potion is 2 or 3 times higher than that of ordinary adrenaline, and the side effects are also greatly reduced. Of course, this kind of thing worth hundreds of thousands of dollars is not something that ordinary people can afford. Of course, This kind of luxury is naturally necessary for U.S., the most powerful armed force in the hands of Umbrella Corporation. Naturally, Chen Yuyan also accepted this technology with a smile. The scan is complete, the violent potion has been entered into the database of the infinite base and can be manufactured. Chen Yuyan looked at the drone floating in the air, and a sneer appeared on the corner of his mouth. He said lightly in the communication, "Ghost, I'm ready. It's your turn. 30 seconds. The ghost replied briefly. 2 minutes. Chen Yuyan replied briefly. He raised his wrist, set 2 countdowns of 30 seconds and 120 seconds, and looked at the drone in the sky. Boom. With a crisp sound, a drone was shot down immediately. At the same time, Chen Yuyan also pressed the button to set the time. Boom. 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 Gunshots rang out continuously, and every gunshot was accompanied by the fall of a drone. When the countdown reached 28 seconds, the last drone was also shot down. At the same time, Chen Yuyan turned into a black shadow, rushing towards it at an unmatched speed. On the south side of the power station is a masonry wall, 4 meters high. However, under the action of the Berserk potion, Chen Yuyan's body functions multiplied, and he rushed up to the wall in a few steps, almost without a support point to hold onto. Holding the MP-5 submachine gun in one hand, he jumped off the wall and fired a burst. A person standing guard on the roof of the factory building in front was hit by several bullets and fell directly from above. Chen Yuyan's speed is unimaginably fast now, and his concentration has also been greatly improved. The moment he landed, the surrounding situation had already come into view. 13, no, 14 people, he said to himself, kicking the ground suddenly, like an arrow flying several meters in an instant. Almost at the same time, a series of bullets hit the place where he was standing just now. But the person who shot was dumbfounded, watching a black shadow rushing towards him with lightning speed. A cold light flashed, and the blood splattered. Quick! Kill him! A panicked survivor yelled, picking up an assault rifle and sweeping wildly. However, he could only see Chen Yuyan's figure flickering from left to right, completely unable to catch his movement trajectory. The bullets all hit the empty space. Some people always think that ordinary people can't dodge bullets, but it's not. Because although you can't run out of bullets, you can move faster than the man with the gun. Guns, especially automatic rifles, have a lot of recoil, so it's hard to steer once fired, unless you want to swipe through the air. Chen Yuyan was well versed in this. During the training on Nuckford Island, Hank, the god of death, specially taught him and Makoto Suzuki, that is, Victor, the skills in this area. The rationale is that Hank believes that only the two of them have the physical ability to do this. And now, Chen Yuyan is doing it. He cleverly used the more complex terrain inside the power station to find suitable places constantly, so that he could only face a limited number of guns at a time. He shuttled through the hail of bullets like a ghost. The Gurkha saber in his hand is like the sickle of death, harvesting the life in front of him. 1, 2, 10, when the last person fell in front of him, Chen Yuyan raised his hand and looked at his watch. There were still 15 seconds left. He smiled faintly, suddenly his eyes froze, and the Gurkha saber swung out in an instant. When there was a crisp sound of metal hitting. He only saw a woman holding 2 short knives appear in front of him at some point. Is the bronze group high level? Interesting, a smile appeared on the corner of Chen Yuyan's mouth. Are you the scum of the experimenter who joined the U.S. to help the Umbrella Corporation? The woman snapped. 10 seconds, the smile on the corner of Chen Yuyan's mouth suddenly turned cold, and the woman's face changed, and she suddenly felt a huge force coming from the 2 knives in her hands. She quickly used her strength to jump back. But then Chen Yuyan followed like a shadow, at an unimaginably fast speed. When he pushed away the woman's double knives, He had already anticipated her reaction, stepped on the ground first, and charged forward. Boom! The woman was hit hard by his shoulder and staggered back. But she also reacted very quickly, forcibly holding back the blood that was almost spurted. A pair of double knives swung like pear blossoms in a rainstorm, and the dots of the knives slashed from all directions. The more false moves, the less strength. Chen Yuyan shrank into a ball, and suddenly crashed into the knife net. He was slashed more than a dozen times immediately, and blood spurted out from the wound, but in the next second, he had already kicked the woman in the abdomen fiercely. Boom! The woman couldn't resist Chen Yuyan's strength, and was kicked 2 or 3 meters away. Before she recovered from the severe pain, Chen Yuyan grabbed her arm and twisted it violently. A short knife fell from her hand, and at the same time, she felt a coldness in her throat. Air, blood, and life quickly flowed from the wound in her throat. Passing by. In terms of physique and skills, Chen Yuyan did not have much advantage over high-level experimenters. But in terms of killing efficiency and combat experience, most of the experimenters can't compare with Chen Yuyan, who has gone through a 10-year undercover career and received special hell training from the super special soldier Hank in this world. Chen Yuyan raised his hand and looked at his watch. After 116 seconds, he turned on the communication and said, "The south side has been cleaned up, I need to take a break. You can start to act." At this time, Bertha had also rushed in. She quickly checked Chen Yuyan's injuries, and found that they were only skin injuries, so she sprayed him with first aid spray, and the wound immediately stopped bleeding. "Delta Team, all attack. Let's surround and annihilate them." Rupier's cold voice came from the communication channel. "That's right, in this battle of 7 people vs hundreds of people, the plan of the U.S.S is encirclement and annihilation. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. All Heavens Unlimited Base. Author, Jingde Ren. Chapter 66. 66 7 vs Hundreds, Part 1. Action. Looper gave an order in the communication. The 4 eyes pressed lightly on the instrument in their hands, only to see that the speed of the lickers hidden in the shadows suddenly accelerated. They were climbing quickly on the outer wall of the power station building. It reflects the experimenters who are ignorant of the upcoming danger, and all their attention is completely attracted by the trackers. Hiss. A licker suddenly jumped up, and its long tongue popped out instantly, wrapping around an experimenter's wrist and pulling it hard. Immediately afterwards, it fell from the sky with pulling force, and its long claws pierced deeply into his back. "Lickers! There are lickers here!" the experimenters exclaimed, and immediately someone turned their guns and pointed them in the direction of the lickers and fired a burst of fire. Da-da-da! 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 The lickers crawled fast on the wall, and countless bullets followed them, pulling out a long smoke. I only saw an experimenter pick up a modified shotgun without using a scope. Apertures like electronic eyes suddenly appeared in his eyes. Constantly focusing, adjusting, and locking, the crawling of a licker, the trajectory has been completely predicted by him, and the index finger began to exert force on the trigger. Boom! A gunshot. The experimenter's head exploded in an instant, and among the countless brains and blood, there were still some shattered electronic eye components mixed in. In the shadows, Phantom, expressionless, pulled the bolt of the SV-98 sniper rifle to eject the cartridge case. Suddenly, out of the corner of his eye, he saw a faint reflection of a building flash past, and he immediately rolled on the spot. With a bang, a deep bullet hole appeared where he was lying on his stomach just now. While the ghost was rolling, he was already adjusting the direction of the muzzle. After the tumbling was over and the muzzle had just stabilized, he pulled the trigger. Boom! The 7.62mm sniper bullets were fired from the sniper scope in the opposite building. The powerful penetrating power of the bullets instantly penetrated the 2 layers of lenses, entered the experimenter's eyeballs, rolled in the brain, and then a powerful shockwave broke through the back of the head. The entire skull was lifted, and a large pool of blood and brains splashed all over the entire wall. Almost at the same time, the dead experimenter instinctively snapped down his index finger, and the sniper rifle in his hand also fired a scorching bullet. Puff! A big hole was immediately punched in the wall 4 or 5 meters away from the ghost, and broken stones and dust flew out. On the east side of the power station, the engine of a pickup truck made a deafening sound and rushed towards the power station. The barbed wire fence surrounding the power station was immediately crushed. The survivors in this direction were horrified to see more than a dozen zombies standing on the cargo bed behind the pickup truck. Boom! The pickup truck rushed in with countless bullets and hit a high chimney on the side of the power station. The zombies loaded on the car were thrown out like bullets under the action of inertia, and fell to the ground with a clatter, and the heads of several zombies were smashed. The terrified survivors shot wildly at these zombies. Under the intensive firepower, these zombies were quickly knocked down. However, just when they breathed a sigh of relief, suddenly the flames flashed. Then the pickup truck suddenly exploded. An extremely violent explosion swept across in an instant, blowing away all the survivors who approached. Bomb! Be careful! Stay away from the chimney! The experimenters in the middle were much calmer, and they shouted loudly to silence the panicked survivors. But before he finished speaking, he saw that in the flames of the explosion, those zombies who had been knocked down by random guns before and were shattered in the explosion stood up again. Immediately, everyone was scared to death. How is it possible? These zombies have all been shot in the head. Why can they still move? All I saw was that the mutilated bodies of those zombies grew wildly one after another, and countless mutated tissues kept pouring out and growing up, almost ignoring the laws of physics. Almost within a few seconds, it turned into a terrifying monster with no rules at all, almost not even a human figure. Some of these monsters still had flames on their bodies. After they stood up, they let out bursts of beastly roars, and pounced on every living person around them. As long as enough T-virus is injected, these zombies will become extremely difficult to kill. Compared with ordinary zombies that mutate after being injected with a few tenths of a milligram, this is the tip of the iceberg of B.O.W's power. 4 Eyes walking out of the shadows, he said lightly. She held a Bret 92 FS pistol in one hand and an injection gun in the other. When passing by an experimenter who was still alive, she took the injection gun and shot him in the back as if nothing had happened. Soon the experimenter's blood vessels turned black, his skin became dilapidated and dull, and his nails became longer and longer. He let out a terrifying howl, got up suddenly, and howled. He rushed towards his companions around him. Devil! I'm going to fight you! An experimenter who was disgraced by the explosion just now roared loudly, and he swooped towards the 4 Eyes and punched him in the head. With 4 Eyes slightly tilted back, this punch hit the wall violently, and with a bang, a large dent was punched out of the brick wall. Whoa! Isn't out of the box. However, 4 Eyes didn't even lose the weapons held in both hands, and she saw through all the experimenters' attacks and dodged them all. But under the endless anger, the experimenter punched one punch after another, kicked one kick, and the offensive was like a tide without stopping. All of a sudden, the corners of her 4 Eyes flashed, the pistol and the injection gun were raised and flicked, and almost at the same time, her figure suddenly moved. He raised his elbow and slammed it hard, hitting the inside of the experimenter's elbow joint. The experimenter suddenly opened the door wide, kicked him on the knee with 4 Eyes, and at the same time clasped his wrist with the other hand and suddenly leaned forward, kicking his shoulder joint with a straight long leg from behind. Then she grabbed the experimenter's hand and rolled over. There was a crisp click. The experimenter's arm was twisted into a twist. He suddenly let out a miserable scream. But it wasn't over yet. Four Eyes twisted his other hand, and kicked him on the numb elbow, which instantly made him weak all over, and instantly pushed this person who was a head taller than her to the ground. The physical fitness is good. Xian said calmly, with a blank face, pressed his knees on his back, and pulled out a purple syringe from the backpack. What are you doing? Let me go. Let me go. Ah. The experimenter screamed loudly, but there was no way to escape in front of the Four Eyes who are proficient in joint skills. He could only watch helplessly as the syringe in Xian's hand slowly pierced his carotid artery, and then slowly injected the T-virus containing the Ne-alpha parasite into his body. Don't waste time. Clean up this place as soon as possible. Beltway's huge figure came to her side, grinning and pressing the remote control in his hand. Boom. With a bang, a wall outside the power station was blasted open. With a burst of crazy roars, countless zombies swarmed out from behind the wall, rushing towards the inside of the power station following the sound. Four Eyes let go of the experimenter, ignoring him rolling in pain on the ground, picked up the injection gun from the ground, stuffed a pheromone-inducing potion, and fired it towards the depths of the power station. With a soft poof, under the guidance of the pheromone, countless zombies sped up like hungry wolves and ran over frantically. Thank you for the 1000 starting point coins rewarded by the Star Sea Rangers. All Heavens Unlimited Base. Author, Jingde Ren. Chapter 67. 67-7 vs Hundreds, Part 2. Shoot. Shoot. Kill her. A group of experimenters and survivors panicked and opened fire on a figure. All I saw was Looper approaching them at high speed, and the countless bullets hit her with lightning flashes, and then fell to the ground one after another. Da-da-da-da. The FAMA's assault rifle in Looper's hand continued to spew out tongues of flame. Even when she was running at high speed, she couldn't miss a single shot, and more than a dozen people fell in her path. Why? Why can't she be killed? A survivor took a pistol and shot all the bullets at Rupier, but was still blocked by her advanced combat uniform. Assemble. Concentrate on killing her. Someone in the crowd shouted. The survivors who reacted quickly began to gather, and the firepower became more and more intensive. However, Rupier's speed was extremely fast. After she shot down several people in a row by relying on the short-term bulletproof function of her combat uniform, she suddenly made a wrong step. It slammed into the window of the building next to it. She's in. Go in. Block the exit, go in and grab her. The group rushed into the building as well. At this time, Looper, who heard the voice outside, showed a cruel smile at the corner of his mouth. Yeah, staying in the same building with complex terrain with one of the world's top special forces? I'm afraid 10 lives are not enough to die. Victor walked in the shadows, and he silently killed all those who wanted to snipe from high places with favorable terrain. With the help of the invisible combat uniform, he was like an invisible god of death, leaving only a piece of blood and the gradually cold corpse wherever he passed. Even if there are experimenters who claim to be extraordinary and want to resist, they are still not his opponents. In terms of close combat ability, the current Chenyan and Victor are even stronger than Looper. Even if Hank, the god of death, came, they could fight inextricably under his hands, and they would lose after dozens of rounds. The ghost hides in a high place, constantly changing his position. His purpose is to snipe and kill all the people with powerful weapons. The SV-98 sniper rifle is the sickle of death, constantly harvesting life. This man took a machine gun and sniped. This man is holding a large caliber assault rifle, snipe. This person is holding a .40 caliber Desert Eagle, sniping. This person took out the grenade and sniped. Just 7 of them turned upside down the power station where hundreds of experimenters and survivors gathered. On the east side, the tracker blasted a big gap, and countless zombies swarmed in. Coupled with the powerful firepower of the rocket launcher in the tracker's hands, most of the experimenters and survivors gathered here to resist the zombie invasion. The north side of the power station is the direction that the Ghost and Victor focus on. They hide in the dark and keep killing people here, and Rupiah attracts a lot of attention from the experimenters here. After being harassed by lickers on the west side of the power station, a large number of berserk zombies were released from the Four Eyes, and Beltway also blew up a section of the wall and let in a group of zombies. Chanyuyan had cleared out more than a dozen people on the south side of the power station, and Bertha had also killed all the others who came to support him here and there. For a while, the whole power station was full of flames, gunshots and screams kept coming, and almost everyone was panicked, and they didn't know how many people came from the other party. They just feel as if there are countless people attacking, as if no place is safe. Wherever you hide, you will die. Those survivors who had never experienced such a scene were the first to become confused. They shouted loudly and ran around, wherever they could escape for their lives. The experimenters were much stronger individually, but most of them had never experienced battles with the top killers and special forces, and they were also at a loss, and many of them were scattered by the survivors running around. The confrontation between hundreds of sheep and 7 wolves has come out. Even if you dance with wolves, even if the struggle is endless, no matter how strong you are as a man, you will inevitably end up being divided and wiped out by the pack of wolves. Kill. The tracker let out a hoarse roar, its eyes full of chaos swept around. Many people ran away, but there were still many people shooting back. Even if the army coat on it has bulletproof function, it has been hit by countless bullets and has been beaten to pieces, revealing the steel-like mutated muscles underneath. With the continuous destruction of the suppressing military overcoat, the tracker's exposed body began to mutate continuously, and the mutated place over there continued to proliferate and grow larger. Now it seems to have countless huge pustules hanging on its body, which is extremely disgusting. Moreover, the inhibitory potion that suppressed its crazy and disorderly killing instinct was continuously consumed, and the tracker was now on the verge of collapse. Roar. The tracker roared, and suddenly dropped the bazooka that was out of ammunition and rushed out at a high speed. He ran to the temporary firepower point set by several experimenters in a few steps with countless bullets, and roared. It slapped the concrete blocks piled up in front as a shelter, and then the tentacles protruding from its hand pierced directly into the heads of those people like poisonous snakes. The T-virus content in the tracker's body is extremely high. If killed by its tentacles, even if the head is destroyed, it will still be turned into a zombie, and it is a violent zombie with a higher degree of mutation. Just when it started killing, suddenly a black shadow shot towards it. Bang! A fist hit the tracker's chest hard. The tracker's 2-meter-tall, muscular body was knocked back 2 steps. All I saw was that Huang Xian had rushed over. He was wearing a pair of gloves as thin as cicada's wings, protecting his hands from being eroded by the T-virus. Seeing the pursuer being repelled, he kicked the ground with such force that it even blasted a big hole in the concrete floor. His whole body was shot out like a bullet. The last shot came first, and the moment the pursuer just started to retreat, he slammed his knee hard on its chin. Boom! At that moment, the huge force even formed a strong wave of air around. The stalker who was standing unsteadily was knocked to the ground by this blow. At this time, Rebecca and Jill ran over. Seeing Huang Xian's heroic posture that knocked down the pursuer in an instant, the 2 women had different expressions. Rebecca, who had seen Huang Xian's brutal nature at the sewage treatment plant in Acre Mountain, became more and more frightened, while Jill Valentine, who had a tougher personality, showed a hint of fascination in his eyes. Die! Huang Xian yelled angrily, jumped up high, and kicked down from the sky. At this moment, a tentacle suddenly grew out of the mutated sarcoid tumors on the tracker's body, and it slapped Huang Xian's feet fiercely. Huang Xian's foot was pulled a little crookedly, and he stepped on the ground with a bang, and the concrete floor was instantly cracked by this foot. Boom! 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 Jill fired the first time, and the bullet hit the tracker's head very accurately. Rebecca hesitated for a moment, then picked up an M-16 assault rifle from the ground and fired accurately. More and more tentacles grew from the tumor on the tracker's body, waving wildly around. It got up from the ground, stared at Huang Xian, and its eyes gradually turned red. Immediately afterwards, it let out an extremely terrifying roar. Roar! Thank you for the 1000 starting point coins that Maple Leaf BFI rewarded. All Heavens Unlimited Base. Author, Jingde Ren. Chapter 68. 68 There are gains. Da-da-da. Da-da-da. A team of experimenters was firing desperately at the 4 lickers crawling between buildings, but the lickers were so flexible that they crawled among the buildings, making it difficult for the experimenters to aim. And the sporadic bullets hitting the licker have no effect at all. In fact, under such circumstances, there is nothing that cannot be solved by 1 RPG shot, and if there is, then 2 shots. But here lies the problem. Even in the United States, heavy weapons such as RPG rocket launchers cannot be found on the market at all. Even among this motley army of experimenters and survivors, most of the weapons they used, such as grenades and machine guns, were brought over by experimenters who exchanged storage space in the system. Therefore, when facing such a large-scale biochemical virus outbreak, they did not have many weapons that could be used. Asshole! These lickers don't come into contact with us at all, they just run around. An experimenter shouted loudly. Someone is controlling them. Back off. Only the chunky man Yao Xiong rushed over with the M41A1 pulse rifle from the world of Alien. The experimenters around immediately recognized him as one of Huang Xian's cronies, and quickly backed away, sealing off the surroundings from a distance. Although the stalkers and a large number of zombies on the east side of the power station are fighting with the survivors in full swing, they dare not relax at all. Because the baggage hanging on those lickers is too suspicious. If it is really an EMP bomb as Guo Wei said, then the situation will be terrible. With a click, Yao Xiong pulled the bolt, aimed at the direction of the lickers and pulled the trigger. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. The muzzle of the M41A1 pulse rifle emitted bursts of dazzling lightning. The so-called pulse rifle uses electromagnetic pulses to accelerate bullets and fire them, and this is also the development direction of kinetic energy weapons in the future. Numerous 10mm caliber caseless armor-piercing projectiles are fired at a speed of more than 1,500 meters per second, almost twice that of ordinary assault rifles. Countless high-speed bullets enveloped the licker in an instant, and the speed of the bullets was even faster. No matter how flexible the licker was, it was impossible for the licker to escape the coverage of the fire this time. Puff puff puff, there was a light sound. Countless stinky black blood spurted out, and the 2 lickers were hit by bullets from the M41A1 pulse rifle. The powerful kinetic energy instantly sent the lickers flying several meters away. Even in midair their bodies were torn apart by the bullets. One can imagine how terrifying the power of this future weapon is. The other 2 lickers turned and ran. They crawled quickly and quickly disappeared into the shadow of the building. However, at the same time, Beltway and Four Eyes had already blasted the wall in this direction, and a large number of zombies swarmed in. Attracted by the inducing pheromone emitted by the Four Eyes, these zombies rushed towards the experimenters here. The ones rushing to the front were the dozen or so mutated berserk zombies that had been injected with an excessive amount of T-virus that were transported in by a pickup truck earlier. Seeing the crowd of corpses approaching, Yao Xiong's expression changed drastically, and he said loudly, Ji Peng. Find someone to see what's inside the liquor's bag, and I'll help defend against the zombies. After speaking, he let a group of people run over and fire wildly at the corpses. And this M41 a one-pulse rifle is even more of a killer level, one bullet used to be able to penetrate 2 or 3 zombies. On the upper floor of a building, the ghost naturally noticed Yao Zhepeng. He smiled coldly, adjusted the shooting angle, and put Yao Zhepeng's head into the scope. However, at this moment, he suddenly heard a slight engine sound. Subconsciously, the ghost suddenly jumped up, turned around and ran away. I only saw a drone swooping down here, boom. The drone exploded immediately, and the ghost pounced forward at this moment, finally avoiding the fatal explosion. But when he just got up, he saw 3 or 4 drones flying over, and there was a miniature machine gun hanging under the drone. Da-da-da-da. The ghost fired a series of bullets without hesitation, but these drones obviously had a certain amount of armor protection. The MP-5 submachine gun just shook them for a while, but they couldn't destroy them at all. Victor, help me. 0, go support 4 Eyes. The ghost's voice was still flat, and he ran downstairs quickly, followed by the drone. The miniature machine guns kept firing, and the small caliber bullets kept hitting the ground. A cloud of dust splashed from the wall. At the same time, Guo Wei's voice came from the earphones of the chunky man Yao Xiong. I have temporarily suppressed the ghost, but my drone has limited ammunition capacity, so I may not be able to suppress him for too long. You end here as soon as possible. Fighting. Understood. Yao Xiong maximized the firepower of the M4101. This pulse rifle is powerful, and because it uses caseless ammunition, a magazine can hold 100 rounds of ammunition. He almost blocked it all by himself. The impact of hundreds of zombies. On the other side, Ji Peng, a middle-aged man with a bald head, came to the corpses of the 2 lickers. He looked at the burdens on them but dared not go past them. He thought for a while, pointed to a shivering survivor and said, "Let him unpack the package." The worried experimenters were relieved when they heard this, and their expressions immediately became fierce. They dragged the survivor up and threw it over there. Open the bag. See what's inside. I dare not, the survivor cried out immediately. He could clearly see that these people were using him as cannon fodder. If you don't dare to go, you will die now. An experimenter threateningly pulled the bolt of the gun. The survivor had no choice but to walk over and carefully squat down to unpack the bag. Ji Peng and the other experimenters had already hid behind a bunker aside to avoid being injured by a possible explosion. However, just as he opened the bag, there was a sudden muffled sound, followed by billows of smoke spreading from inside. The smoke was so thick that it quickly covered this large area, and it was almost impossible to see people face to face. Smoke bomb! It's a smoke bomb! Some experimenters exclaimed, and their voices began to be terrified, because of course zombies would not be affected by the smoke, and the U.S.S, which is equipped with thermal imaging equipment, would not be affected either. It will have an impact, but for them, it is completely fatal. Quick! Get out! Ji Peng roared loudly. Suddenly, his expression turned serious, and he flashed to the side. In the next second, a large piece of bullet hit the wall where he was hiding. Ha 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 ha! Beltway laughed while firing a shotgun in this direction. In the thermal imaging device of his helmet, he clearly knew the position of everyone around him. In contrast, the experimenters in the smoke were all blinded. Little bastard! Why are you hiding? Beltway mocked. Ji Peng closed his eyes, felt his position through the wall, and then punched the wall hard. All I saw was a brick flew out suddenly and hit Beltway's gun with a bang. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Ji Peng drew out his 2 sabers and swooped towards Beltway like a rock spreading its wings. Chen Yuyan squatted under a large transformer, installed a cylindrical object, and set up the detonating device. This is obviously an EMP bomb. It was the weapon that the Umbrella Corporation provided them with to destroy the power station. Because the power station in Raccoon City is very large, if you want to use ordinary bombs to explode, this amount is definitely not what the U.S.S can carry. However, the newly developed EMP bomb only needs 3 to 4 pieces to instantly paralyze the facilities of the power station, causing a citywide power outage. There were more than a dozen corpses scattered around, and these were the experimenters who ran over to help them, but they were all killed by Chen Yuyan and Bertha. Okay, it's installed. Let's go to Four Eyes and help. Chen Yuyan straightened up and said to Bertha. He is in a very good mood now, because a new thing has been added to the Infinite Base. The scan is complete, the EMP bomb has been entered into the database of the Infinite Base and can be built. Thank you for the 2,000 starting point coins rewarded by the Star Sea Rangers. I would like to recommend a book written by a book friend. It is about history. It is of good quality and quite funny. You can read it. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. All Heavens Unlimited Base. Author, Jingde Ren. Chapter 69. 69 The Strong Strike. Boom. 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 Huang Xian punched the tracker several times in a row, knocking it back several steps. Under the incomparably powerful force, the tracker even had a lot of wounds on his body. A foul-smelling purple liquid flowed out from these wounds, and occasionally some tiny tentacles could be seen wriggling in the wounds. The tracker's current form has undergone tremendous changes. With the restraint military coat destroyed, the T-virus in its body is now constantly causing mutations in its body, and tentacles protrude from the sarcoma growing on its body. These tentacles waved around, but they were as powerful as iron whips, enough to crack monuments and rocks. However, even so, the tracker was beaten back again and again by Huang Xian. Huang Xian's punches and kicks were astonishingly powerful, and his speed was faster than the pursuers. In addition, Rebecca and Jill wandered around to support him, making it impossible for the pursuer to catch Huang Xian. Give me, die. Huang Xian seized the opportunity to punch the pursuer back, and at the same time, he jumped up high, kicking his right leg in the air with a frightening whistling sound. Head. There was only a click, and the tracker's head was twisted into a strange angle, almost to the shoulders. The tube implanted in the spine from the neck was also interrupted, and yellow liquid continued to flow out. With a plop, the huge body of the tracker fell down feebly, and did not move anymore. Huang Xian took a deep breath and looked at the fallen pursuer with cold eyes. This is the biochemical weapon made by Umbrella Company. Jill Valentine was extremely angry. Look at him, he was transformed from a human being. Umbrella, how dare they use it on a human body? Do an experiment. She shouted angrily, stepped forward, picked up the gun and fired at the pursuer continuously until all the bullets in the magazine were emptied. Huang Xian walked over, patted Jill on the shoulder lightly and said, "Let's go. It's not dead yet, we can't kill it alone. Go to other directions as soon as possible to support and destroy the U.S.S, so that we have a chance to enter the research institute. Get Umbrella's evidence. I will help you. These dregs of Umbrella Company are not qualified to live in this world," Jill said decisively. Rebecca sighed softly, didn't speak, just followed behind Jill. When serving in S.T.A.R.S before, Jill Valentine was a woman with a very strong personality. She acted vigorously and straightforwardly, and was the best fighter in the team. Perhaps it was because of this character that she recognized Huang Xian more. With this preconceived impression, she could tolerate Huang Xian's arbitrariness and brutality later on. At this moment, a system prompt came suddenly. Although during the battle at the power station, the system prompt that a large number of experimenters died appeared like a screen refresh, but this prompt still made Huang Xian's heart tremble like a lightning strike. The experimenter, Ji Peng, has died. Place of death, Raccoon City Power Station. Ji Peng is dead? Bastard! Bastard! Huang Xian roared, and his whole body shot out like an arrow from the string, and disappeared from the sight of Jill and Rebecca almost instantly. A few minutes ago, on the west side of the power station, the smoke produced by the smoke bombs has enveloped a large area, and the experimenters and survivors inside began to panic. They heard the low and hoarse roar of the zombies from time to time in the smoke, as if they were everywhere, but they couldn't see where the zombies were. This feeling is simply hopeless. And in the smoke, there were two lickers who were not killed. The IQ of the lickers is much higher than that of the zombies. They found that the danger has weakened, and coupled with the control of the four eyes, they crawled back again. And the four eyes hidden in the dark also remotely detonated the smoke bombs on them, and the two lickers crawled around with the smoke bombs, spreading the smoke to farther places. Among them, Beltway and Ji Peng are also fighting fiercely. Compared with Beltway's burly body, the bald-headed middle-aged man Ji Peng's figure was not much inferior, and the two big men fought together without any fancy. Ji Peng wielded his two knives. The knives were powerful and heavy, and the thick and heavy knives slashed down. Even Beltway's special explosion-proof combat uniform was chopped open. If he hadn't dodged so fast, he wouldn't even be able to keep his arm. Beltway, who has always boasted of his superior strength, retreated steadily under Ji Peng's attack, and he found that he was not Ji Peng's opponent at all. Even if he ignored the two knives in Ji Peng's hands, after several collisions, he found that this bald man was actually stronger than him. Swish! A cold light flashed, and Ji Peng's sword cut a deep wound on Beltway's chest. He lost a lot of blood and was so painful that he had to retreat again and again. At this moment, a voice suddenly came from the communication, and Beltway's expression suddenly became hideous. He suddenly took out a grenade, pulled the tab, took the grenade in his hand and rushed towards it with a roar. Ji Peng was shocked, and hurried back again and again, only to see Beltway throwing the grenade on the ground at once, and then fell to the ground as soon as he turned around. He was wearing an explosion-proof combat uniform anyway. But Ji Peng is not. Ji Peng quickly ran away, but at this moment, he didn't pay attention at all. In the smoke in front of him, a figure was approaching rapidly. It's Chen Yuyan. Chen Yuyan has turned on the thermal imaging function of the helmet, and Ji Peng's position is clearly visible. He asked Beltway to detonate the grenade, just to make Ji Peng temporarily panic, and then... boom! Chen Yuyan jumped up and kicked Ji Peng hard in the chest. Ji Peng was caught off guard and was kicked directly. Almost at the same time, boom! The grenade exploded. Ji Peng, who was kicked out by Chen Yuyan, had already lost his chance to dodge. His back was instantly hit by the shockwave and countless shrapnel from the explosion. Chen Yuyan was also knocked to the ground by the shockwave of the explosion, but with Ji Peng standing in front of him, he didn't suffer too much damage at all, and immediately rolled over and stood up. Seeing him lying on the ground, his entire back was bloody, and he was already in a state of less air intake and more air output, dying. He stepped forward, pulled out the Gurkha saber, and cut his throat with one blow. Bertha also came to Beltway, and said coldly, "You still won't die, but I never use anesthesia, bear with it." After finishing speaking, she took out a scalpel and suture started to treat Beltway. Four Eyes. How's the situation? Chen Yuyan asked in the communication. Four Eyes had already installed the EMP bomb under the cover of smoke. Hearing Chen Yuyan's voice, he replied, "The bomb on the west side has been placed. Now only the east and north sides are left. There is a person on the other side who is controlling the drone, try to track his signal." After Chen Yuyan finished speaking, he looked around. It was found that when they were fighting on their side, many experimenters in this direction had already fled, and the swarming zombies were biting the survivors who fell behind. To put it bluntly, these survivors were all civilians, so they couldn't outrun the experimenters. In an emergency, they were naturally left behind as cannon fodder. But judging from the direction they were fleeing from, it was outside the power station. It was obvious that these experimenters had completely collapsed, and they no longer wanted to hang out with the strong man in the silver group here. Maybe they had fantasized that together they could fend off zombies, defeat the U.S., and survive. But in fact, they failed to do a single thing. This raccoon city is destined to be a hell that swallows 99.9% of the lives. The inducing pheromone is about to expire. Once it expires, these zombies will attack us. Let's leave as soon as possible. Four Eyes said in the communication. Chen Yuyan nodded, and was about to speak when he suddenly heard a roar coming from a distance, and it took almost a second or two before the voice came to him. You! How dare you do that? There was a roar full of anger, mixed with the sound of howling wind. Chen Yuyan reacted instantly, crossing his hands in front of him. Boom! With a dull sound, someone punched Chen Yuyan's hands. He only felt the muscles in his hands whine, and the bones made crackling sounds. If it wasn't for the fact that his physical strengthening had reached the limit of the elementary level, this punch would have directly broken his hands. The person who came was a tall and handsome man, but at this moment his handsome face had been distorted by endless anger. He looked like a ghost. He is the strongest of the silver group. Go. Go now. I'll deal with him. Chen Yuyan roared in the communication, and at the same time ripped off the gas mask he was wearing. All Heavens Unlimited Base. Author, Jingde Ren. Chapter 70. 70 Leapfrog Battle, Part 1. Huang Xian came in with anger, punched him in the head again, and was blocked by Chen Yuyan again. You! Another punch. Boom! Chen Yuyan was knocked back several steps by his huge strength. This group. Huang Xian's fist was getting stronger and stronger, and he punched again. Boom! Chen Yuyan kept retreating. Bastard! With a sudden retraction of the fist, the smoke of the surrounding smoke bombs also turned into a spiral shape during the breathing of the air machine. Then he concentrated all his strength on the punch, clenched his teeth and looked ferocious, and then punched out. Boom! Chen Yuyan just felt that his punch was as if the sky was falling apart. He could only continue to protect his face with his arms crossed. Boom! There was a loud noise, and even the surrounding smoke was blown away by the powerful air wave of this punch. With the power of a punch, Chen Yuyan couldn't stand still, and his whole body was sent flying like a bullet. Over a distance of several meters, a zombie was knocked away in the middle, and then slammed into the wall of a factory building. However, the momentum still persisted. He smashed a big hole in the brick wall, and then fell inside the factory building. Go to hell! Huang Xian was extremely angry, kicked his foot, and shot out quickly, kicking down the crumbling wall of the factory building, and then stomped hard on the place where Chen Yuyan fell just now. Boom! He stepped on a big hole in the concrete floor. However, people are not here. Are you running away? Huang Xian looked around. There were many large machines in the factory, the terrain was complicated, and the smoke from the smoke bombs outside kept pouring in, making the surrounding vision even more blurred. Angry in his heart, he kicked out with a bang. A thick iron pipe was directly broken by him, and the scorching steam inside spurted out. Come out! Huang Xian roared angrily, whoever has the guts to kill me doesn't have the guts to fight me. Come out! Boom! With another kick, a large machine was dented and deformed, and electric sparks shot out continuously. He, in your imagination, do you think that with hundreds of people, you can get anything you want in this raccoon city? Kill the U.S.S, and then lead everyone into the Umbrella Underground Research Institute to get the most benefits. Yes, with this foundation, it will not be so difficult to survive until January 1st next year. Chen Yuyan's cold voice came from the shadows. Bang! Huang Xian kicked up a metal stool and smashed it in the direction of the sound. The next second, his ears caught the sound of the gun being pulled, and he dodged to avoid it. Bang bang bang. A few rounds of bullets came, and sparks were scattered on the machine next to it crookedly. Chen Yuyan threw away his pistol. With his marksmanship, in this place surrounded by complex terrain and smog, it is impossible to hit the master of the silver team on the opposite side. In addition to his hands now, Chen Yuyan looked down at his hands, only to see that the combat uniforms on his arms had been completely torn, the skin on his arms was cracked and blood oozes out, and even the bones were exposed. There was an abnormal arc. Even with his current physical fitness, under Huang Xian's berserk attack just now, his bones have already broken. With slightly trembling hands, he took out a small glass bottle from his hidden pocket, and inside the bottle was a piece of meat emitting green fluorescence. Here is a piece of fresh beef. The last time he encountered William Birkin's mutated monster at the Raccoon City Underground Research Institute, he used up the 100 ml tiberium crystal that he had previously refined with 4 eyes. Later, when they returned to the headquarters, they tried to refine some more. But this time the time was too short, and only about 30 ml was extracted, so when starting out, Chen Yuyan simply stuffed a piece of bloody Kobe beef into the bottle. In the past 2 days, the tiberium crystals in the bottle really started to erode the beef, the red meat has turned green, and many places are crystallized. Suppressing his nausea, he took out the green beef and swallowed it in one gulp. I have to say, the taste is really terrible. It's like chewing a piece of foam. Slowly moving among the machines in the factory, Chen Yuyan lowered his voice as much as possible, waiting for the tiberium crystal to dissolve in his body. Get out of here! Huang Xian roared loudly, and now he was no longer as calm as before, and he finally realized that his previous plan was a complete mistake. Are you angry? Chen Yuyan hid in the shadows and said coldly, the 7 of us broke up hundreds of mobs just like that. All your plans have disappeared, right? Bang! Another metal stool was kicked towards him violently. Chen Yuyan dodged sideways and changed his position. Feeling the power of tiberium to repair his seriously injured arms, he spoke again, guess again, that one, how long will it take for the experimenter operating the drone to be caught by us? Die to me! Huang Xian roared, and kicked out with another whip kick, kicking a whole machine flying over. Boom! The kicked machine was directly blocked by a pair of hands. It's Chen Yuyan. A faint green fluorescence flashed across his eyes, and then he kicked the ground suddenly, and the whole person shot out. Huang Xian realized in an instant, he immediately turned his head to look at the direction Chen Yuyan was rushing towards, a cruel smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Are you here? Ha 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 ha. A fist suddenly pierced through the smoke and hit Huang Xian's face. The surrounding smoke was blown away by the wind of the fist. The power of this punch was no less than that of Huang Xian's before. Boom! This punch was blocked by Huang Xian. He used his own elbow. Under the collision of 2 powerful forces, there was a burst of air around in an instant. Huang Xian's smile became more ferocious, he tilted his head and looked at Chen Yuyan. Do you think I'm so angry that I've lost my mind? Do you think I'll be so angry with just a few words? That's all, you can show up, I couldn't be happier. Chen Yuyan had no expression on his face. With a wave of his fist, he turned around and kicked him. At the same time, Huang Xian kicked to meet him, boom. The two collide again. He felt the power of tiberium in his body start to churn with these 2 collisions, and he also grinned grinningly, that's right, I thought so too. Bang bang bang. In the next second, the 2 quickly fought into a ball. I only saw their hands and feet almost turned into after images. Ordinary people couldn't see their movements clearly. They could only hear the sound of force collisions in the air. Chen Yuyan's combat skills were continuously tempered during his 10 years of undercover work, and then further sublimated in the special training in the USS. He has no moves at all, and each move has only killer moves. A killer move to control the enemy with one move. And Huang Xian is a master of Muay Thai, almost covered in killing tools. There was no trick in the fight between the two. The collisions between fists and feet were all with terrifying force. They collided more than 10 times in almost an instant. Relying on the powerful recovery ability brought by the tiberium crystal in his body, Chen Yuyan completely traded injuries for injuries. Because he understands that with Huang Xian's strength, if he waits until the tiberium power dissipates, it will be the moment of his defeat. Boom. Punch. Boom. 2 punches. Boom. 3 punches. Then, it was a side kick that contained all the strength of the whole body. Boom. The two of them smashed through the wall of the factory building and fought from the inside to the outside. But almost at this moment, both Chen Yuyan and Huang Xian were stunned, because outside the factory building, hundreds of zombies were impressively surrounding them. Those hundreds of pairs of rotten eyes looked over almost at the same time. Thank you for the 2000 starting point coins rewarded by the Star Sea Rangers.